today. So I'm going to hit record now. Perfect. So over to you, Chris.
Thank you very much. So hello to everyone to join us today. For those who don't know, my name is Chris. I'm the founder of the Burnt Chef Project. We have partnered up with the Opportunity Group fairly recently to be able to offer, I don't know any other way to say it, but the first of its kind, a unique training session or a training apprenticeship that's designed to shape the future of our hospitality industry in order to be able to provide our leaders with the skill sets that they need in order to navigate the subject of mental health and well-being, but also to implement company and cultural changes within organizations to be better in terms of leadership skill sets, more confident, and the Opportunity Group have very kindly worked with us on this, enabled us to facilitate it. So Michaela here is going to speak to you all about what the diploma actually is involving, also how you can sign up. It isn't a Levy apprenticeship, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a Levy payer to get involved, and Michaela will explain exactly what's involved with that in just a second. So thank you for joining you.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for that great introduction, Chris. What we'll start getting into then is just a bit of the detail of what we plan to cover today. So just by way of introduction, it'd be useful for you to all know who I am and why we're here this morning. So I'm one of the co-founders of the Opportunity Group. The Opportunity Group really was designed to support organisations in maximising the apprenticeship levy. So when the reforms came in 2017, we wanted to work with organisations to think about how they create high value, high volume development programs for their people. So how we do this is by supporting organisations to create lifelong learning opportunities. Why we're quite excited about bringing an apprenticeship to you this morning is because the great thing about them now is that they're open to anyone of any age and background, and we believe that's a great way to support the hospitality industry and thinking differently about how they support their managers and leaders on this program. So just to give you an idea of some of the people we've been working with, we work throughout the UK with organisations from hospitality to manufacturing, distribution centres and retail, and all of the premise behind what we do is helping you as leaders and managers within organisations either to develop yourself and get opportunity to go through a new learning experience, or to support your wider organisation as well. So why we're here today is to talk about our mental health leadership programme. So as some of you may be aware from the Deloitte report and the workplace mental health report, it's estimated that mental health is now costing organisations in the UK £55 billion. And that's due to the impact it's having on people having absence, presenteeism, or other issues that are affecting them being able to thrive in the workplace. So the reason we've developed this programme is because we believe there is a gap in the hospitality sector to develop managers and leaders to help support you guys create that safe environment for your team to thrive. So it's not just about the mental wellness of your teams, it's also about making sure you've got the right processes, systems, safeguarding, and reporting in place to ensure those people can have their best chance of being successful in their role. They can be working in an environment that's safe, that allows them to have as much work-life balance as possible in what is a challenging time for the sector. So we've developed this programme so that the main focus of it is to support your team members to develop and implement a mental health strategy for their team and the wider organisation. And this will focus on the processes, the systems, the ways of working that need to change and to support your people, managing people through that change process as well. So what we're talking about here today is a change management programme that is going to help support your people in thinking differently about how they support your organization's wellness, but ensuring that those managers and leaders have the skills to be able to do that in a safe way. So there will be lots of opportunity at the end for questions, but do please feel free to come off mute if you have any questions as we go through. Our intention today really is to give you an overview of the program content. We will of course follow up with more detail on what that looks like, but we'll also talk to you a bit more about what the apprenticeship opportunity is and how you can get involved if you so wish to. So what I'm going to do next is to just give you a flavour of what's involved in this program. So it's coming up a little bit small on screen here. So what I will do is just quickly stop sharing and do a slightly larger version of that so that you can read it much better, hopefully. And that will give you an idea of what's happening on this particular program. So the aim of this program is all around leadership and management. So ideally, this is aimed at people in your organization who have the ability to influence change. So whether they are leading the front of house or kitchen teams, they could be in a general management type role. But ideally, the best people to go on this program are those who can really affect change in how their team operates and is developed as they go through. So the big focus on this program is bringing together all of the brilliant development around leadership. It also focuses on operational excellence. So thinking about, are the ways of working that are in place right now fit for purpose? Do they help your people to thrive and be mentally well? Or is actually some of what's happening in the organization having a detrimental effect on the team members and therefore needs to change and adapt for this new place of work that we're all finding ourselves in? So the program builds over 12 months. So it is a 12-month program. It is fully funded through the Apprenticeship Levy, but we'll come into the funding options slightly later. Where the program starts is focusing on the individual, so thinking about their self-leadership, their values, their beliefs, their strengths, thinking about how they will be performing as a leader and manager in your organization. We then start doing a deep dive into some of the core themes on this program. So looking at resilience, so thinking about how you help your team build resilience in an uncertain world, thinking about mental health awareness training, and creating that common language around mental health and wellness so that your teams are starting to use these techniques in one-to-ones and are better able to support your team before it gets to crisis point. Why we've worked with Chris and the Burnt Chef team is because we've embedded all of the Burnt Chef content into the program as well. So you'll be obviously aware of the work that Chris is doing in the hospitality sector. So we've adapted the content to make sure that it's fit for purpose for the environment that your team finds themselves in. What we want to make sure is that they've got the tools to go straight away and start implementing so that you can see the impact very quickly on this program. So what we'll also go into is a lot around stigma, discrimination, and thinking about how they really become much more inclusive in their leadership style. When we get to the communication part of the program, the aim here really is how does your team effectively communicate with each other and manage any crisis that people might be having. So ensuring that they've got a methodology to use here, they can have effective one-to-ones with people. If people have had sickness absence due to mental health, they've got a structure in place of knowing how to support that person in a safe way, how to report it effectively, and ensure that all of the safeguarding practices are in place. I'm sure, as many of you are aware, there is now a requirement on employers to ensure that stress risk assessments are taking place. So as part of that process, we will train your team to know how to effectively deliver those, but also put in place an action plan should anyone need any further support. What we're not expecting from this program is that your team become counsellors, therapists, or mental health experts. It's impossible to do in a 12-month program, but what we will do is build the confidence in your leaders and managers to ensure that your team are safe, They've got someone to talk to. They feel comfortable opening up around their mental health, but ensuring there's the right safeguarding practices in place so that signposting is happening, people are supported, and they get the help that they may need, and also ensuring that your team are working in the right way. So an example of this working in practice, we're currently delivering this program at a large retailer, and they shared with us last week that one of their team, unfortunately, was going through a mental health crisis. They needed support, but because of this program, the managers knew exactly what to do. They implemented the support that was needed, and they actually prevented that individual from potentially committing suicide because they were having suicidal thoughts and really were at crisis point. So the aim of this program is to ensure that that doesn't happen. We want to be really proactive and support your managers and leaders in having the right conversations with your team and making sure that the environment is one where people can thrive. So for example, Chris and I have talked a lot about, if we can change the way even practices work around rotation management, rota management, all of that sort of thing would really support people if they were having a potential crisis, or ensuring that we don't get to that point is the aim. A big part of the program, as you say, is the project. So the project focuses on a mental health strategy, so supporting your team to actually implement that strategy, look at perhaps a problem that you are facing as an organization and use that as a project. So they've got something real life that they work on. And then for you guys, from the organizational perspective, you get the added benefit of a qualification for your leaders and managers, but also then a project that is having a wider impact on your organization. We then help the team manage that change. So where they are implementing new ways of working, they might be implementing new processes or systems, they'll get the support to ensure that that change is lasting and is embedded with your team. We then do a deep dive into them as a leader, so thinking about their role as a leader, how they build a high-performing team, how they motivate and delegate effectively within the organization. And then probably most importantly is then how do they coach people around these behaviors that we're looking to embed? So thinking about that coaching practice, how to give good quality feedback, and how to support people in what is a stretched sector that is, busy, it's challenging. We want to make sure that all of these skills are things that they can use straight away in role, so that they can build their confidence as well as a leader and manager. So that's just a brief overview of what the content looks like. How this is delivered really depends on you as an organization and what you're looking for. So two options are available. We do run this program as an open program. What that means is if you have only one or two people in your team that you feel this would benefit, they would be able to join a cohort group of other organizations. That has the added benefit of, networking across different groups, sharing best practice from other organizations as well. If you feel that you would like a program that's completely tailored to your organization, we would work with you to co-design a program. And to be able to do that, we would need a minimum of 15 people from your organization going on the program. And that allows us to spend the time designing it to make sure it's completely tailored to your ways of working, your language, your values, and the behaviors that you're looking to embed. So they're the two options that are currently available. How it's delivered is predominantly in virtual classrooms. So that's using tools such as Zoom or Teams. It's very interactive, it's high energy, and we also can deliver a blended version with some face-to-face workshops taking place if you chose to have a closed group for your organization. So there's lots of things that we can do to adapt that content just to make sure that it really is fit for purpose for your team, and to make sure it reaches those wider objectives that you have around supporting mental health. So to make this program an apprenticeship, there is some wraparound work that the group would be doing. So we'll go into next a little bit about what that shapes up as. So if there's any immediate questions, feel free to use the chat box or to take yourself off mute, and we can certainly cover those as and when you're ready. So we'll go into next just a little bit more about how the program shapes.
Sorry, Michaela, just very quickly. So obviously we're talking about teams currently and people coming from organisations whereby they're looking at onboarding multiple managers. We've also got quite a lot of individuals within this group as well who would be looking at joining currently off their own back for personal development or from an independent. So everything that you've discussed will apply to those individuals as well, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are looking to join, for example, from an independent, and you're not a levy payer, the options that are available to you are things like, for example, a co-design option. So what this means is that you would be co-investing alongside the government. So the great thing about the apprenticeship reforms is that the government are trying to support SMEs as well as those larger corporates. So you would be asked to contribute only 5% towards the funding amount. So the programme itself is £11,000 through the Apprenticeship Levy. If you're a levy payer, this will be completely covered by your levy. If you are a smaller organisation that's not yet paying the levy, or indeed you might have already spent your levy on other apprenticeship programmes, the co-investment option is a great one because the government will contribute 95% of the funding and you would pay an additional 5%. So that still makes it a really cost-effective programme for you as an organisation. The other option is levy transfer. So in each region, levy transfer is typically delivered by your local combined authority. Sometimes it is by other large organisations as well. So for example, Amazon are underspending on their levy. So they are transferring levy funds to some organisations as part of their corporate social responsibility. So that is something that we can support with as well. In that scenario, it would cover the full funding cost of £11,000, but you would need to go through the process of finding someone to make that donation. But that is a really useful option should you need to fund in that way. So that is something to think about that might well support your programme and make sure that you can get the most out of the experience. One of the things about the apprenticeship which is important to know is that we are working towards an end point, and that is an assessment that takes place by an independent assessor. So this is how we ensure that your team achieve their qualification at the end of the programme. It's broken down into 3 parts. So there is their project, which they will submit. And this is really a deep dive into what their synopsis is, the brief, and how they intend to evaluate the success of that programme. They'll also have a workplace observation. So this is just to ensure that they've been able to embed some of that learning. Obviously, we now find ourselves in a world where workplace observation is not so easy due to COVID regulations. So at the moment, most of these are happening virtually or through a witness statement from line managers evidencing that they've seen the individuals start to embed some of this learning into their new ways of working. They'll also submit a portfolio. So this is the evidence that they gather through their program. So it's how they've started to implement change within the organization. It might be that they're now running a team meeting in a completely different way because of what they've been learning on the program. It could be that they're having much more in-depth one-to-ones with their team members to ensure that they are checking in on people's mental wellness and ensuring they've got the support in place. So we'll also guide them really from day one to get to this point. So right from that launch session, we'll be setting the scene of what that endpoint looks like. And on completion of the program, you would achieve a pass, merit, or distinction. Of course, we want to push everyone to distinction level. So if that's something that you are looking to achieve, we will guide you in what that additional work looks like. But just to give you a flavour, the time commitment on the programme is roughly broken down in these 4 main ways. So attending workshops, which is typically about a month, 1 day a month, sorry. So this is time spent in the learning environment, whether that's with Chris or our other facilitators, to make sure that they are going through all of the knowledge, the methodologies, the theories that we want them to learn. They get to practice them in a safe environment to then bring that knowledge back into the organization. They'll also have one-to-one time with a coach. So that's about 1 hour a month. They'll get that time to get support from their coach, to progress through the program, and that wraparound development that they are looking for. There's also some self-directed learning. So this is typically research around the subject of mental health. It could be doing some deep dive research into leadership methodologies and tools that they could be implementing. But all of that time spent will account towards their apprenticeship. But the big thing, and this is where we feel the program can have the most value to you as an organization, is the application of learning. So it is a work-based program. I'm sure some of you who've come across the new world of apprenticeships will have heard of 20% off the job time. That's time spent either in a learning environment or applying that learning back into roles. So this is where you will start to see the impact of the new ways of working that your team are developing. And obviously for this program, it's all focused around leadership and mental health. So that application of learning, as I say, could be time spent in one-to-ones. It could be actually doing a presentation back to the organization about what they're learning on the program and the changes that they would like to make. So that time is really, really valuable. And that's how we can ensure that you guys get maximum impact for this qualification. One important point I think to make just at this stage is, although we are obviously apprenticeship specialists, how we've delivered and designed this program so far is through a team of clinical psychologists. We also have workplace mental health practitioners in our team as well, alongside leadership and development experts. So this program is led by specialists. They will be working with facilitators in their workshops, and they will have a coach who will be a specialist in mental health to ensure that all of that learning is being implemented in a safe environment for your team as well. So there's lots of opportunity for this program to have scope to develop even further if you did choose to do a closed group, because of course we can embed any of the key behaviors or values that you are looking to develop in your team more broadly. So just a couple of specifics about the program then. So as we've touched upon briefly, it is £11,000 per learner. And if you are an apprenticeship levy payer, that is completely fully funded for your team to achieve this qualification. So that includes all of the content that they will experience from a burnt chef perspective and the apprenticeship program to achieve this particular qualification. We also mentioned there's the option to join either an open cohort of learners or to create a tailored version for your team. It is delivered primarily virtually over a 12-month period, but of course there are opportunities to bring in some face-to-face learning if you so wish for your team as well. But that's the kind of overview of the program. Sorry, thank you, Dean, for that question. That's a great one. So we mentioned that it is a diploma. You're absolutely right. So as an apprenticeship program, the qualification that you will achieve is a diploma, and that diploma is in leadership with a focus on mental health. So in terms of next steps, if you are interested in taking this program forward, we can, of course, arrange engagement sessions for your team if you wanted your organisation to find out more about the program. At that point, we are running those throughout October and into November. So that's dates for your diary if you wanted us to run one specifically for your organisation. There is, of course, an application and selection process. So we do need to onboard apprentices phases to the program, and as any of you may already know, there are some stages to go through in that process. So one of the things that we do always need to do is ensure that this is the right program for your team. So one of the ways that we do that is everyone, it doesn't matter what their educational background has been, will need to do an initial assessment in English and maths. So this is part of the government's agenda to increase the numeracy and literacy skills across the UK. So everyone does an initial assessment, and that is some paperwork to complete. If for whatever reason any of your team members are not successful at that point in their assessment, it doesn't mean that they can't complete the program. It just means that we'll give them some additional support to achieve their English and math qualifications as well. So as part of that process, if there's any additional learning they've done before around leadership or management, all of that will be taken into consideration so that we can adapt the content of the program to maximize the impact for the group and ensure that they're not going over content that they may already have experienced before. But hopefully the fact that this is weighted more towards mental health and building a mental health strategy, that will all be brand new for people in your team. At the moment, we're planning for January starts for this program. So that's just to give you an indication of how long this process takes. Roughly speaking, the onboarding process, if everyone's geared up and ready, which we hope they would be, that typically takes about 4 weeks to complete. And that's normally just the timescale to complete engagement sessions with the group, get all of their onboarding and application process complete so that they're ready for a launch in January. And then from that point on, they will meet their facilitators, their coach, get to know even more about the program, and then they will be guided through all of the different learning experiences. So that's the kind of overview of the program there. I don't know, Chris, if you wanted to give any more context before we go to questions.
Thank you very much. So, and I believe we're getting questions through on the
We
chat
are
now
indeed,
that we'll be
yeah.
able to respond to, which is great. So, I mean, ultimately, the Burnt Chef project was only ever started to raise awareness, and since then we've now put in support mechanisms to support individuals. But ultimately, in order for us to be able to shape the future of our hospitality industry and ensure that its continued growth is sustained over the next 5-10 years, we need leaders within, well, as many organizations as possible, but we need leaders to be able to start implementing changes. We're always getting told that we should, that's the way that things have always been, and that this is the way that it is. But now we're a lot of negativity around, but I genuinely feel very positive about the future for hospitality. And by signing up to be part of this diploma, you're taking such a massive step forward in ensuring that we're shaping the future of this industry for sustained growth in a healthy and manageable way. I've got so much to say about it, and you guys probably know I talk quite a lot anyway, so I will keep it short and sweet. And Michaela, I'll let you answer any questions, but we will be sending out an email with a recording afterwards for further information. We will also be sending out an email address specifically so that you can inquire for next steps and sign up and get involved in the process and engagement sessions. So please don't worry about making lots of notes. We will get an email within the next 24 to 48 hours with follow-up details, and just to cover some of the key points that Michaela's mentioned today.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chris. So over to you guys for questions. So we've got a few coming through the chat box, which I'll answer now, but also feel free to come off mute if there's anything that you want to share with the group. So we've mentioned Dean's question around the diploma, so hopefully that covers that one. There's another question here, so focusing on leadership and mental health. Is this the right work program for someone in my position? And also they're not based in the UK, so would this pose any issues? So 2 great questions there, thank you so much. So firstly, in terms of broadening and improving your knowledge around leadership and mental health, absolutely, I believe this is the right program for you. The reason that we've really delivered it in this way is because there's a lot at the moment going on around mental health first aid, which is fantastic. And it's great to have that in place in organizations. But where we feel this brings something slightly different is we focus deliberately on the management and leadership population, because we believe if they can be supporting people to thrive and implementing safe working practices, then the output of that will be that people will be more mentally well and supported in their organization. And if they are getting to crisis point, there are the steps and the safeguarding in place to ensure that they are supported, they're safe, and they're able to come back to work as and when they're ready. So it's everything from being proactive to ensure that safe working practices are in place, but also ensuring that the safeguarding and the signposting is there to support people should they need it. So in terms of it being a UK focused programme, so at the moment, that's really just down to the Apprenticeship Levy funding. So it doesn't mean that you're excluded from the programme if you're based outside of the UK. It would just mean that the funding mechanism is slightly different. So we'll certainly send you a follow-up email to detail exactly how that works. Leslie, great question from you. So you're a micro business and the 5% is still a lot of investment. So if that's the case, then I would really strongly recommend looking at Levy Transfer, because that would cover the entire cost of the £11,000. So that would mean that you would have almost, as you say, a grant funding available to do that. So to make that happen, the best way, as I say, is I recommend firstly speaking to your local combined authority. There's already some very good systems set up in place. For example, West Midlands and Manchester have a fantastic levy transfer scheme in place. We are also in touch with a number of larger corporates who have unspent levy that are actively looking for organisations and programmes to support. So we can certainly pick up that with you separately, Leslie, and perhaps Chris, in our overview that we send the group following the session, we can share with them some more detail on funding options that are available.
Yes, certainly. I think also the key thing at the moment through conversations I'm having with many, not just national, but international businesses, is there's a lot of people within the hospitality sector that don't currently have an output for their levy payments, which means that those levy payments will be given back to the government if they're not spent. So no matter what size your business, chances are probably one of your suppliers who you've got a great relationship with, whether that's through drinks, whether that's through catering, kitchen supply, will have access to a levy fund, which through conversations, you may be able to find that actually they're willing to grant you access to that fund as part of their corporate responsibility. And it also helps with the work that the First Chef Project does as well in terms of increasing our reach and our awareness. So it doesn't mean for any moment of time that if you're not able to fund the 5% yourself, that the doors are shut. There are so many ways of getting involved, and we can help you with that as well. You know, if you do need negotiations with suppliers, by all means, I'm happy to get involved and to speak with them on your behalf if need be.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chris. Another question here from Dave. So how do I find out if my company is an apprenticeship levy funded organisation? The best way to do that, Dave, is to speak directly to either your finance or your HR team. So they should have that information available to you. Just for those that are not aware, how the apprenticeship levy funding works is it's based on your payroll. So if you are an organisation with a payroll of £3 million or above, you will be contributing 0.5% to the levy fund each year. That's taken in incremental amounts per month. So that is something to look into with either your finance department or your HR team if you don't already have an apprenticeship team in your organisation. So I'll just look down for another couple of questions. So we've got a great question here about if you're already enrolled on another apprenticeship, can you join this one? Unfortunately, how the funding works is that you're only able to join one apprenticeship programme at a time. However, on completion of your current apprenticeship, you would be able to then take part in this programme. So you can do as many apprenticeships as you wish in your career, but you're only able to do them one at a time. We've got another question here about, let me have a look. So sorry, we're just getting through them all. Thank you so much for all these brilliant questions coming. This is great. So Dean, you've asked a question about Process Leader. So Process Leader is the apprenticeship program. So each apprenticeship is designed in a way that it reaches a certain standard to achieve funding, but also to ensure that you've got the knowledge, skills and behaviours to be successful at endpoint assessment. So Process Leader is the name of the apprenticeship standard if you wanted to look that up. It's not different from the diploma. It is all one program and embedded as one qualification. So it's just delivered to get to that endpoint assessment at the end, but all of the learning that you will go through is in one program. We've just designed it in a way to focus predominantly on mental health rather than just general leadership. So there's been quite a few questions there from people. Hopefully that's answering everything you need. Anything else coming through? Okay, we've got one here from Colombia. So does the program have applications? I don't, potentially, yes. So I don't know the exact requirements of funding in Colombia. However, it's certainly something we could look into. If you were wanting to join the program, what we would just charge is a commercial rate for the training program if you are not eligible for apprenticeship levy funding. At the moment, the levy funding that's available here is only available in England, which is a great shame, but we are starting to roll out some apprenticeship programs in the US and also in mainland Europe. So there are options there available, but as I say, a commercial fee would be charged for that, as far as I'm aware, for anyone who is joining us from Colombia. So great question, Lee. If you're unable to start in January, are there other options? Absolutely. Our intention is to run this program as frequently as possible. We want to build a critical mass of leaders and managers who are supporting the wellness of their teams. So our intention is to run this program again. January is just our next start dates that we have in place, but we will be planning further dates into the spring. So Lee, we can send some different options over to you and we'll share those with the rest of the group as well. If you were looking to run a closed cohort for your program, we can start that at any point in the year. We only start our open cohorts pretty much every quarter, just due to obviously the numbers that we are working with at present time. So this program has been running with different sectors for about a year now, but this one has now been designed specifically for hospitality. So this is the first of its kind that meets those requirements. So any final questions before we leave you to get on with the rest of your week? All looks like I think we've covered everything, Chris.
I think you've done a fantastic job. Thank you very much. I mean, ultimately, without going over so much more, I think, you know, over here in the UK, I don't know if anyone saw recently a draft consultation by the Department for Public Health England has suggested that managers should have, managers in all sectors should have mental health training in order to be able to better engage with their teams, identify potential crisis moments as well. So this will not only fulfill that requirement, but it goes above and beyond any requirements at this moment in time within certainly UK employment to improve workplace cultures. So as I say, if this is something that you are interested in, you can on board with, this is a very exciting opportunity to be able to really leapfrog years and years and years into the future in terms of development of our particular industry. Michaela, you've done an absolutely amazing job. Thank you very, very much. And we'll be sending an email out to you all very shortly with more information, a copy of this recording, and also an email address to email for the next steps.
Thank you all. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you all this morning. I hope you have a brilliant week. If there are any other questions, Chris will be sharing both of our contact details, so please do feel to reach out to either of us. We'll try and cover those as quickly as possible for you. But thanks again for your time today, and we hope you join us soon on the programme.
Thank you very much. Cheers.